So in this video, I've collected a pretty big list of Pokemon that I think should have new types or have their typings changed. Now, obviously, this would never happen because I don't think they've ever actually changed a typing. There's been times where they've added an extra type, but they're not actually going to do any of this. I just think these are good ideas, and also some of them, I'm just kind of confused as to why their types are the way they are. And it's a pretty big list, so I'm just going to get started quickly with Charmeleon and Charizard. Obviously, most people would agree that Charizard at least should be Fire Dragon instead of flying and fire. Not sure why they ever did that. Dragon type existed back then, so it's not like it wasn't gonna happen. Anyway, Blastoise, or at least its Mega form, should be Water Steel because it has cannons and they're obviously like metal. Nidoqueen and Nidoking, I think, should be Poison Dragon instead of Ground. I'm not really sure where the Ground even comes from, because their pre-evolutions don't have them. Obviously they're not based on any kind of animal, so what is the Ground supposed to be? I don't know. I feel like Dragon would work better, since they kind of have a draconic design, and they look like that one in Kaiju, which is kind of like a dragon, so that would definitely be cool. And it would be better than Poison Ground, that's kind of like not as interesting as Dragon. Ninetales should be Fire Psychic. I always thought it was Fire Psychic. I don't know why it's not. I think I only thought that because of that one Delta species card, but I think that would work better than just Fire. The whole Zubat line should be Flying Dark instead of Flying Poison. Bats aren't poisonous, but they do fly in the dark, so that makes more sense. And the whole Paris line, I think, should be Bug Poison. They're Bug Grass because, like, the mushrooms on them, but I would associate that more with poison, especially since they're being, like, infected by them. Psyduck and Golduck should be Water Psychic. The fact that they aren't Psychic doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, Psyduck literally has Psy in its name. Kadabra and Alakazam should be Psychic Steel because of the spoons that they have in Shelter, and Cloyster should be Water Rock because they're like shells, and that's kind of like rock. And especially Cloyster, it's Water Ice, and that makes no sense. Galarian and Weezing, I think, should be Steel Poison instead of Poison Fairy. I don't know why it's Fairy type. It's based on like smokestacks, so I would associate that more of Steel than Fairy. Mega Kangaskhan should be Fighting Normal, since the normal one is normal type, but when it Mega evolves, it looks more battle ready, and the little kid comes out too, so I think it should gain the fighting type. Starmie should be Water Psychic for pretty obvious reasons. I don't know why it's not. That's another one that I thought it was Psychic, but it's actually not. Electabuzz and Electivire should be Electric Fighting. I mean, they should have always been Electric Fighting, and instead we got that ugly Pawmot thing as the first Electric Fighting type. Gyarados and its Mega Evolution should be Water Dragon, especially since the whole Magikarp evolving into Gyarados thing is based on the story of a koi becoming a dragon, so should be Dragon type. And then Porygon and Porygon 2, I think, should be Electric type, since they're supposed to be like digital made by technology or whatever, instead of normal type, because they are normal type, but I feel like Electric would work better. And basing off of that, Porygon Z should be Electric Poison because it's like a corrupted digital thing, so it's kind of like a computer virus. You could take that as like a sickness too, so like poison kind of. I think that would be pretty cool if they did that, but obviously they won't. Meganium, I think, should be Grass Dragon, and right now I'm essentially just giving the Johto starter final evolution secondary typings. Typhlosion, unfortunately, I couldn't think of anything, so Firefighting, just like, you know, the other 4 or 3 we have. And then for Alligator, could be Water Dark. Hoot and Noctowl should be Dark Flying, since they're owls and they're nocturnal. Gligar and Gliscor should be Poison Flying. I don't know why they're ground type. They're like scorpions, so they should be poison. And then Sneasel and Hisui and Sneasler should be Ice Poison, just because we don't have that type yet, and it kind of works. Galarian, Corsola, and Cursula should be Ghost Rock, since they're like dead coral, and coral can like become a rock when it dies, I'm pretty sure. and also we don't have that type yet. Blissey should be fairy, because like Wigglytuff and all those other similar things are fairy type, but it's just normal for some reason. The legendary dogs or beasts, I think it would work if they all had the ghost type, just because they were like resurrected from dead dogs. Larvitar and its whole line, I think they should have the dragon type and just be like dragon ground, because they're based on they have to do with mountains and stuff, but the fact that none of them are dragon type doesn't really make sense to me, especially since it's a pseudo legendary line, and the whole rock dark doesn't really make sense, especially for Tyranitar. Lugia should be water flying, obviously. I mean, that just makes sense. Not psychic. I don't really know where the psychic ever came from. And then based off of that, Ho-Oh could still be fire flying, but fairy flying would also work for it, just because like fairy's the closest we kind of have to a light type, and it's the rainbow Pokemon, so that could work. Mega Swampert, since Mega Sceptile gains a new type, it becomes Grass Dragon. I feel like Mega Swampert could get something too, and instead of, well, obviously it's already water ground, but like it should be water fighting, because it gets really big muscles and stuff, so I think that definitely makes sense. And the Mega Aggron should be Dragon Steel instead of just pure Steel, because it's pretty much a dragon, obviously. Trapinch, I think, should be Ground Bug, because it's based on an antlion, which is like this bug that lives in the ground, or in sand, so that just kind of works. And then it obviously evolves into Vibrava and Flygon, and everyone agrees that they should be Bug Dragon. Lileep and Cradily should be Water Rock instead of Grass Rock, because they're based on water lilies, not actual lily flowers, so it would make more sense that they have water and not grass, or not water lilies, sea lilies. Anyway, Mega Absol, I think, could be dark flying just because it has wings. Luvdisc is, or should be water fairy, because it's like a heart, so that makes sense. Kyogre, since Groudon is a ground type and its primal form has 2 types, I decided to change that whole lineup a little bit and give them all 2 types. So Kyogre could be water ice, since it can learn Ice Beam, I'm pretty sure it already knows that when you get it. And then Primal Kyogre could be water dragon to have a step up from that. And then Groudon could be ground dragon to start, but then become fire dragon when it primal evolves. I don't think it's called primal evolving, but its primal form could be fire dragon based off of that. And I think that that could work. I mean, that's neat. It's better than just like the single types that 3 of those things I just mentioned normally have. Luxray, I think, could be dark electric, and I'm only saying that because I always thought it was, but it's actually just pure electric. Rampardo should be rock fighting, because Pachycephalosaurus is, like, they're usually depicted as fighting each other with their heads. Magmortar should be firefighting, since I said Electivire should be electric fighting earlier. And then Yanmega is obviously another one that everyone wants to be Dragon Bug. Dialga and Palkia, I think, could be Rock Dragon, just because they're Diamond and Pearl. So I'm not really sure where Dialga is Steel, especially since it's Diamond. That doesn't really correlate. And if they're not going to be Rock Dragon, they could easily be Psychic Dragon too, since like time and space kind of correlates with that. Regigigas, I think, should be ground type, because it's said to have like made the continents and stuff, so normal doesn't really make sense. And then Shaman's land form, I think, should be ground grass, since it's on the ground, but normally it's just pure grass. But then its sky form is grass flying, so its land form should have the ground type. Serperior could be grass dragon or grass poison. Samurott could be water rock, and I'm giving them extra types because Emboar has a 2nd type. Timber could be fighting grass because it has wood. Girder could be fighting steel since it has the piece of metal, and then Conkeldurr could be fighting rock since it has the stones. And that would make for a pretty interesting evolution line. Galarian, Yamask, and Renurigus could be ghost rock, also since we don't have that type combination yet. Garbodor could be poison steel, just because it's like trash and there could be metal in trash, so that kind of works. And the Gothorita line, I think, should have the dark type, and then end up being dark psychic instead of just psychic because they're like gothic and dark, so it makes sense. Frillish and Jellicent should just be pure water instead of water ghost. I don't understand why they're ghost types. Like, none of their dex entries explain that at all, so they should just be pure water. The Tynamo line could easily just be water electric and not pure electric since they are all fish. Haxorus could be dragon steel since it's like an axe and like armor on a dragon, so it would make sense. And the whole Flabebe line should be grass fairy since they are like flowers pretty much. Inkay could just be pure water type. I'm pretty sure it's pure dark type, but I just feel like water works better as a squid. And then Malamar should be water dark instead of dark psychic, just because, again, it's a squid, and I get it's like an evil little hypnotic thing, but like the dark still conveys that pretty well. Xerneas should be fairy grass, and I'm only saying that because it would allow for Yveltal and Xerneas to kind of fully counter each other, and also Yveltal already has two types. It's dark flying, so if Xerneas gets grass, then its flying can beat Xerneas's grass, while Xerneas's fairy beats Yveltal's dark, and also grass because it turns into a tree. Formantis and Lorantis should be grass bugs since they're based on orchard mantises, which are bugs. And then Solgaleo, I think, should be psychic fire instead of psychic steel. Like, I remember when Solgaleo and Lunala got revealed for Sun and Moon before they came out, I was like, okay, yeah, that'll probably be a fire type, and then it was psychic steel, and I never understood that. And then Lunala, instead of being psychic ghost, I feel like it should be psychic dark, because I feel like the dark type kind of portrays the moon better than ghost. Zeraora should obviously be electric fighting. I think that's something people have been wanting to, or people wanted, because it never happened, and it's just electric type. And then for the Sword and Shield starters, Rillaboom could be grass fighting or ground. Cinderace could be not grass, fire electric, because I remember a lot of people were speculating that would be the case, but it was not. And then Inteleon could be water, dark, or flying, because it's like the whole spy thing, and also it kind of like flies into battle in its animation in Sword and Shield, because it has like the little wings on its back. Applin should be grass bug, since it's like a worm in an apple, and I understand it's like actually a dragon, but it'd be cool if it was grass bug, and then when it evolved, it became much better as a grass dragon. Clobbopus and Graploct should be water fighting because they're octopuses and they swim, so the fact that they're pure fighting is kind of weird. And then Sinistea and Poltegeist should be water ghost, and I think that's pretty cool instead of just normal ghost because they are like tea, so that is a liquid, so water could work for that. Pincurchin should be electric poison because it's like based on a poisonous thing, so it's just pure electric, and that doesn't really make as much sense as electric poison would. And then Morpeko in its full belly form, I feel like it would be cool if it was fairy electric, so that when it turns into its other form, then it becomes dark electric. And then for the Sword and Shield legendaries, Zacian in its normal form is fairy and Zamazenta is fighting. Or no, it might be the other way around. Or no, yeah, it is that. But then in its crown form, Zacian becomes fairy steel and Zamazenta becomes fighting steel, if I'm not mistaken. But I feel like that could have been reworked, because I remember before Sword and Shield came out, what I thought it would have been, what I thought would have made more sense is if Zacian in its crowned form would be fighting fairy, and then Zamazenta would be steel fairy, and then to change it a little more, Zamazenta's normal form should be just pure fairy as well, just like Zacian, instead of fighting. And I only say that because one of them should be fighting and one of them should be steel, because essentially like a shield, obviously a sword and a shield are both made of steel, but like you fight with the sword and the shield has more metal in it, I guess. So in my way of thinking, Zacian should be the fighting type and Zamazenta should be the steel type. Anyway, Eternatus should be electric dragon or psychic dragon, not poison dragon, and I only say that because it's supposed to be like the energy source of Galar, or like the energy source of all the Dynamax stuff, and electric and psychic definitely call to mind energy more than poison does, and its normal type is poison dragon, so That could be changed. And then for some Paldea Pokemon, Spidops and Lockix, those two new bugs. Spidops is bug type and Lockix is bug dark, and to me that makes no sense. When I first saw them, I thought it would have been a little different, so Spidops should be bug dark because it's like a ninja and it's like sneaky and stuff. And Lockix shouldn't be bug dark. Instead, Lockix should be bug fighting because it's literally like a fighting bug. So I don't really know why Spidops isn't bug dark and Lockix is. But yeah, Armarouge should be fire steel because it's literally like a fire thing with armor. So that's just kind of, it just kind of says fire steel right there. But I guess fire psychic works. Actually, I don't really understand that at all. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, Tatsugiri should just be pure water because I'm struggling to understand why it's a dragon type. Even its Titan challenge in Scarlet and Violet calls it the false dragon, so yeah, I don't know why it's a dragon type. And then on to some of the paradox forms. Fluttermane, I think it would be cool if it was fairy dragon, mainly because we don't have many of those. And also all of the past forms are kind of based on like dinosaurs. It even says in one of the dex entries that Fluttermane is like a pterosaur, so dragon would work, and then it already has the fairy type, so just keep that. Slitherwing should be bug dragon instead of bug fighting, and that's one I've heard too. Like, people want that to be bug dragon too, just because they keep avoiding giving us a bug dragon type. And then Sandy Shocks should be steel ground because it's like, it's Magnezone, but it walks on the ground now, so ground works. And also just get rid of the electric because it's not really all too lightning-y, if that makes any sense. I mean, obviously have the steel, but like, I just don't understand the electric type really. Obviously it's like a little mechanical thing, but that doesn't really make sense for its past form because that wouldn't have existed yet. Anyway, Iron Bundle, and now I'm essentially just going to rant about the future Paradox forms because I think they should all have the steel type since they all literally have iron in their name and they're all robots made of metal. So Iron Bundle should be Steel Ice, Iron Hand should be Steel Electric, Iron Jugular should be Steel Dragon, Iron Moth should be Steel Bug, Iron Thorn should be Steel Rock, and Iron Valiant should be Steel Fighting. And I want to specifically talk about Iron Jugulus and Iron Moth because Iron Jugulus is dark flying, so the fact that it's not steel or dragon is kind of dumb to me. And then Iron Moth specifically has to have one of the dumbest typings ever, because Iron Moth quite literally just means steel bug, so the fact that it's not steel bug makes no sense, and its normal type is fire poison, so I have no idea what that has to do with anything, other than the fact that like Volcarona is fire type. So yeah, that's me ranting about Pokemon types for no reason, and thanks for watching.